afternoon. I'm Courtney Cloak in the Executive Education Department at the Robbins School of Business at the University of Richmond. I'm here today with Professor Roger Schnorbus to discuss the subject of innovation management, specifically the two-day course he teaches in the Executive Education program at University of Richmond. Welcome, Roger. Good having you with us. Tell us about the study of innovation management, what it encompasses, and the genesis of the program at UR.
Courtney, thanks for having me. Let's start with innovation. What is it? Innovation is a process, and it's a process that results in the introduction of a product or service that satisfies a consumer want or need. The process consists of several steps, and those steps include idea generation, idea screening, and lastly, the commercialization of the idea. And so, examples of terrific innovation efforts over the last couple of years includes Apple's introduction of the iPhone, Amazon's introduction of the Kindle, and we can look back in the past at what FedEx did in terms of distribution. So innovation is not confined, Courtney, just to products or services. It could include things like technology. It could include things like supply chain, buy chain management. In terms of the genesis of the program at UR, what we did essentially is, over the course of the last few months, had received several requests from Richmond area companies to put together a program on innovation. In my background, I spent 30 years at the Campbell Soup Company, and part of that time I was vice president of product development, and I helped lead the innovation effort at Campbell. And during that time, Campbell became the leader in new product introductions in the prepared food industry. So I felt very, very competent and qualified to put such a program together. We did it for the first time in May of this year, and it went terrifically well.
Thank you, Roger. Can you now tell us about the two-day program given at the University of Richmond, specifically the program content?
Yeah, Courtney, it is a two-day program, and what we do on day one is kind of get into the theory of innovation and what it's all about. And we talk about how, for example, to generate ideas, how to screen ideas, and how to commercialize ideas, and all of that starts with having a sound business strategy. So we cover that, and then we get into very quickly a best practice approach on innovation. And what I mean by best practice is we examine companies and we look at what they did well, because the whole idea here is to study various companies and then try to make innovation work in the firms that are being represented at the session. And so, for example, on day one we look at Campbell Soup and we look at the things that were accomplished when I was there. We then look at Whirlpool. We do a Harvard Business School case study on Whirlpool, on their innovation. And then we conclude and we start and end kind of day one with a look at Procter & Gamble and their innovation efforts. And so in day two then we come back, we review day one, and then in day two, again from the best practice approach, we look at companies like Apple and Google. And then we get into, in the afternoon, a session about how to manage innovation in your firms. So we take what we've learned during the study of these 5 companies, and we put those into what I call an innovation value chain for each specific company represented at the session. And that's kind of neat. We also, at the end of day 2, get into a discussion of how to innovate technology in firms. And we do that via a case, the study of innovation in technology at British Petroleum.
Roger, you discussed the content of the two-day innovation program. Can you now tell us who should be attending the program, as well as registration details?
Courtney, look, here's the way it works in terms of who should attend. Anybody involved with innovation in their firm should be part of this program. In our first session, we had actually the chief innovation officers at firms coming. Now, in addition to those folks, I would recommend anybody, again, involved in innovation, whether that's a brand manager, whether that's somebody in charge of supply and buy chains, whether it's logistics leader and a technology leader. So again, this is wide open. And As I mentioned before, in our first session, we had representatives from companies like Altria, and Owens & Minor, and Midwest-Vaco, and Genworth, Luck companies, and so I think the idea of having all these companies represented at a session like this, the spontaneity in terms of sharing information on innovation was just terrific. In terms of details, we have a website and we have a link that we can flash up on the screen here that will give participants an idea of how to register for the program.
Thank you, Roger, for sharing this information on the Innovation Program. Again, more information on the program and registration details can be found at the bottom of your screen by following that link, scrolling down to Course List under Creating and Managing Innovation.